And with a few moments to go before the start of the next programme, I'll just fill you in on what's happening over the next few weeks. I'm having a small sherry party on Wednesday, just a few friends, that should be nice. I've a pair of curtains arriving from Laura Ashley on the 15th, sky blue with a Regency stripe. And at the end of the month, I'm being fired. So that's what's coming up for me, and this is what's coming up for you. Some old trouts and a man who ought to be in the army. It's on now, unfortunately. I'd just like to apologise to all those of you who may have noticed a drop in the quality of the transmissions. I think perhaps we're buying too many American programmes, detective serials, that kind of thing, and they're perhaps not as good as the English equivalent. Or perhaps we're all getting a little bit older. Or perhaps some of us are on drugs and not very perceptive. One programme that is of a very high standard, however, is our classic serial, which is on Sunday at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock until 9:45. This programme is unusual in that it's not adapted from a well-known Victorian novel. It is actually based on some wigs left over from another production. So, here's a little foretaste of tastes to come. Hello. Well, it's time for all you mums out there to make a cup of tea and enjoy a well-earned rest, while our younger viewers sit back and watch Playbox. And I see here that this week, Miffy and Biffy visit a supermarket, Jane and her granny find out how donuts are made, and Martin and Kathy sing another song about little fatty pig nose. You may also like to know that Patricia Mills, who produces Playbox, is a hopeless alcoholic with a string of broken relationships, or perhaps you prefer not to dwell on her pathetic and unhappy existence as we watch Playbox. And now it's time for our serial, Acorn Antiques. And for those of you living outside the London area who probably aren't very intelligent and can't remember the plot, let me just remind you that last week, Babs received a mysterious visitor, Mrs. Overall came out of hospital, and Mr. Kenneth went on a secret trip into Manchesterford. Oh, I beg your pardon, that was the previous week. Yes, last week, Mrs. Overall received a mysterious visitor, Babs had a secret meeting in a Manchesterford hospital, and Mr. Kenneth was having a lot of humorous trouble with a homemade vol-au-vent. We'd like to apologise to viewers in the north. It must be awful for them. Well, we just have a little time between programmes, so I'll tell you about tomorrow night's play, which, according to this, is a searing examination of a modern marriage of convenience. They don't say whether it's entertaining or not. I must say for myself, I can't stand anything where people are sarcastic or where the men wear dressing gowns. We seemed to have quite a rash of these dressing gown plays a few years ago. I think if they're going to start up again, somebody should perhaps contact the people responsible and give them a little bit of a serious warning, perhaps with an ice pick or tongs. Where you purchase tongs these days, I don't know. Anyway, tomorrow's play is Fitted Kitchen, Ill-Fitting Relationships, and it stars someone I don't like, I'm afraid. Oh, well. In this scene, Paul and Jane are preparing Sunday lunch. Excuse me, just fiddling with a Gilbert there. Well, it's 6:30, and this is where we unfortunately have to lose half our audience, because there's a much better programme on another channel. But to whet the appetites of those who are sticking with us, possibly you have rheumatoid arthritis and can't change channels easily. Anyway, next week sees the start of a brand new drama series set in a sleepy Yorkshire village in 1929. I should say a Wednesday from the photograph. It follows the fortunes of Pippa, a scatty, lovable backstreet abortionist who causes a few raised eyebrows when it is discovered her parlour curtains haven't been lined. In this scene, Pippa, newly arrived in Brassingdale, has her first confrontation with Winnie Witherslack, proprietress of Witherslack's Bits and Doings. Hello. Now, since I've been working here, I've had a lot of very lovely letters asking me where I buy the various tops and blouses I wear to the studio day by day. Well, obviously, I can't reply to you all personally, so I'll just take this opportunity to say to those who took the trouble to write in, mind your own business. Hello. Just a quick rundown of what we can expect to see on Sunday, strikes permitting. It's dreadful, isn't it? I mean, I could go on strike because officially I'm entitled to 2 cushions on this seat and there's only 1. But I shan't because I feel that people should be grateful for having a job these days. And I have heard that quite a few people on Social Security go abroad for their holidays. So really I think random executions might make these strikers buck their ideas up. So Sunday's viewing. There seem to be a lot of things for Asians in the morning. Then there's a few sort of handicap things. Then at 5 o'clock, it's religion, when various bishops will be showing us their kitchens and telling us how God has helped them with the cooking and preparing of food generally. Then at 5:30, it's our very own quiz show, Snookered, with the very popular Ken Burrows. He's not very popular with me, but I suppose working class people find him amusing. Anyway, there's a preview coming up now. Oh, there isn't. I beg your pardon. Thanks very much, Nibbles. Sorry. I just had a little bit of a row with a boyfriend, I'm afraid. I lost track of the time, rather. Right. Where are we? I just think if someone knows you hate mauve, the least they can do is not buy you a pair of slacks in it, don't you? Oh, yes, here we are. Just coming up to time for Acorn Antiques. He said the girl in the shop said it was lavender. Pathetic. I've got a drawer full of things I can't wear. Polyester blouses. Well, now, I like polyester very much, but I can't wear it because I've got an eczema sort of thing on my elbow. He knows. He's seen it. Good heavens, we've been barn dancing often enough. Anyway, more trouble with Berta's mystery illness in Acorn Antiques. Well, I hope you all enjoyed your Sunday lunch and are feeling nice and relaxed. Don't snooze off just yet, though, because later on we've got another film classic. Made in 1961, it's in black and white. Oh, I don't like things in black and white. I just hate the fact that someone could walk in while you're watching a black and white film and they might think you can't afford colour. So I can never really enjoy anything in black and white. Here's a bit of it anyway. I won't watch. I'm going to nip out and see if anyone can mend the dispenser in the ladies' powder room. Not the soap dispenser, the other dispenser. We've a little bit of time before Acorn Antiques, our serial set in an antique shop, so I'd just like to pass on a few messages from the Ministry of Warnings. They'd like everyone to be aware of the dangers of licking their fingers and sticking them into electric light sockets. This can cause serious damage to your nail varnish, and even kill you. And here's one for working class people about chip pans. I'll repeat this one later in case some of you are out with your whippets. If your chip pan catches fire, it's not a good idea to whirl it round your head by the handle. Smother it in a wet tea towel, or do what I do, have coleslaw. I've never heard of coleslaw catching fire, so it's not quite so dangerous. And finally, don't sit too near the television screen, or I might poke you in the eye. Oh dear. It was our researcher's birthday, and we all had a little bit of astispermanti. Anyway, more doings at the Acorn's Antiques shop. Hello. Well, later on, of course, it's our Sunday afternoon film, an American musical made in 1938. It's a big pic. I think they mean biopic. That's YTS typing for you. And I have a note here to say it was the last film made by veteran film director Sidney Schwartz before his death in 1939. Whether he made any films after his death in 1939, we're not informed. Here's a bit of it anyway. And later on, we have the British premiere of the rarely performed Spanish opera by Leopoldo Gutierrez, Miseria en una lavanderia. I'm wasted here, really, aren't I? And later on this evening, on the Alternative Channel, we have a new series dealing with all aspects of women's health, called Well Woman. That's original. Programme 1 looks into that very distressing and all too common ailment. That's not a word I care to read out, I don't think. Fortunately, it's not something I'm ever likely to get. And if I did get it, I certainly wouldn't put yogurt on it. And now for all you night owls who don't seem to need as much sleep as the rest of us. Perhaps you're putting off going to bed because you have trouble sleeping, or possibly you suffer from frigidity. I know I do. Here's suspense, mystery, and absolute murder with the second Mrs. Constable. And tomorrow sees an in-depth investigation into the real-life death of Anatoly Vitkunas, the Russian double agent who met a bizarre end in Paddington earlier this year when he was poisoned by the tip of a padded bra. This is the third film by the celebrated documentary filmmaker Catherine Scott, whom I actually used to know many years ago in the Guides. I went camping with her, as I recall. It's nice to see her doing so well. Presumably she's cracked the problem of her appalling body odour by now. And now, of course, it's time for our very own Acorn Antiques. I beg your pardon, it isn't. It's just that it so often is. Perhaps I'll take a week off and go to Ventnor. I think it's just the strain of having someone flapping their hands over my shoulder like a demented chicken. And now, disestablishmentarianism in Krakatoa, east of Java. Do that without chipping your nail varnish. And there's just time to tell you a little bit about our new blockbuster serial, which begins next week. The Weatherbys follows the fortunes of one Kensington family from 1901 to the Second World War. An all-star cast includes Angela Rippon as Mari Lloyd, Tommy Steele as Clement Attlee, the Beverly Sisters as Elsie and Doris Waters, and Danny LaRue as Queen Mary. Good morning. Welcome to day one of our regional breakfast time experiment. I don't know what sort of morning you're having, but I got up at 3:30 and travelled to work in a bus full of chain-smoking navvies. It's now 6:35. I can't take my rollers out before 7 o'clock. But of course, my loyalty to the company means I will wholeheartedly cooperate with this innovative and, in my opinion, loopy scheme. Good morning. Hello. Now it's time for birthday parade. Again. Peter and Katie Farnsworth are 3 today. Their granny says, could they please have 3 wallaby hops each from Wally Wallaby? Holly Louise Johnson is 11 on Friday. Her mummy has sent me a photograph of Holly in the garden. I think mummy must be a little bit common, judging by the sun lounger. Can Holly Louise have 11 wallaby hops? No, she can have 3. I'm an announcer, not Fatima Whitbread. And because Acorn Antiques is live and our news is recorded 3 weeks in advance, settle back and watch the final performances of Mr. Clifford and Mrs. Overall as we go over to that little shop on the outskirts of Manchesterford. And employment update. Job losses, 3,000 in Paisley and 800 in Sunderland with the closure of GK Metalworks. Job gains, good news in Hove is that Mrs. Mason of the Sea Breeze restaurant is taking on somebody to peel the potatoes.